For years, Blake Lively and Taylor Swift were Hollywood's ultimate best friend duo, inseparable, supportive, and even family-level close. But now, rumors are swirling that their decade-long friendship may have quietly unraveled. Fans are asking the question nobody expected. Did Taylor Swift just end things with Blake through a new song? The whispers started after Taylor was pulled into Blake's recent controversy and chose silence instead of support. Add in a rumored track titled "Ruin the Friendship" on Taylor's upcoming album, and suddenly the internet is convinced their bond might be over. So how did we get here? From a chance meeting overseas to speculation of betrayal? The friendship between Blake Lively and Taylor Swift didn't begin in the glamorous lights of New York or the exclusive parties of Los Angeles. Instead, it started in one of the most unexpected places, Australia. Back in 2015, Taylor was riding high on the global success of her 1989 tour. Stadiums were packed, fans were screaming her lyrics word for word, and she was cementing herself as the biggest pop star of her generation. At the very same time, Blake, already beloved for her role on Gossip Girl and her growing career in film, happened to be visiting the country. Their paths could have easily missed each other, but destiny had other plans. The two crossed paths, and instead of a staged industry introduction, what sealed their connection was something surprisingly normal: a trip to a theme park. Photos later surfaced of them spending the day together, laughing, riding attractions, and just being two young women enjoying life far away from the pressures of Hollywood. For fans, it was refreshing. Here were two A-list celebrities who weren't trying to turn their friendship into a publicity stunt. It looked genuine, effortless, and fun. From that one carefree day, things began to snowball quickly. Social media lit up with excitement, with fans dubbing it the start of one of Hollywood's most powerful friendships. And before long, it wasn't just Blake and Taylor making memories. Blake's husband, Ryan Reynolds, soon entered the picture, turning the duo into a trio that fans couldn't get enough of. Not long after Blake and Taylor's friendship began, Ryan Reynolds found himself naturally folded into the mix. By then, Ryan wasn't just Blake's husband. He was becoming one of Hollywood's most beloved leading men, thanks to his sharp wit and breakout role in Deadpool. Fans were already obsessed with Ryan and Blake as a couple, and when Taylor joined the picture, the dynamic was unstoppable. Suddenly, the world was watching what many called Hollywood's power trio. Whether it was private get-togethers, low-key hangouts, or sly cameos on social media, the bond between these three was undeniable. It wasn't uncommon to see them spotted together at parties, or hear about inside jokes that seemed to cement their friendship as more than just surface level. Taylor wasn't just a friend, she became like extended family. She spent holidays with Blake and Ryan, celebrated milestones, and was often seen laughing alongside them in candid moments that fans couldn't get enough of. For a while, their connection represented something rare in the celebrity world, a friendship that felt grounded, genuine, and built on real trust. And for Taylor, who at that time was constantly making headlines for feuds, rivalries, and public scrutiny, her friendship with Blake and Ryan seemed like a safe harbor, a reminder that not every relationship in Hollywood came with drama. But this closeness was about to go even deeper, in ways that surprised everyone, especially when Blake and Ryan's children became part of Taylor's music in a way no one saw coming. If there was ever proof that Blake and Taylor's friendship went beyond Hollywood small talk, it showed up in the most unexpected place: Taylor's music. In 2017, fans were stunned when Taylor released her song Gorgeous, and it opened with the voice of a little child saying the title word. For weeks, the internet was buzzing, asking, "Who is this mystery child?" The answer made the friendship feel even more real. Blake later revealed that the sweet little voice belonged to her daughter, James. It wasn't just a fun Easter egg. It was a sign that Taylor wasn't keeping her best friend's family on the sidelines. She was literally weaving them into her art. And it didn't stop there. Fast forward to 2020, when Taylor dropped her Folklore album, and fans noticed something shocking. In the track Betty, Taylor used the names James, Inez, and Betty, the exact names of Blake and Ryan's three daughters. What could have been just random names suddenly became a public love letter to her friend's family. It was as if Taylor had given the world a hidden glimpse of how important Blake and Ryan were in her personal life. Ryan later confirmed what fans were already guessing. Taylor wasn't just a friend, she was family. He openly said in interviews that Taylor was the godmother to their children. And with his usual humor, he even joked that you could measure a box office hit just by the fact that Taylor was connected to it. For Swifties, this wasn't just a cute detail, it was powerful. Taylor, known for being incredibly private about her inner circle, had let Blake's children live forever in her music. It was a bond that most celebrity friendships never reach, one that seemed unshakable. But just as their connection appeared stronger than ever, Blake and Taylor were about to take things one step further into the creative spotlight. By this point, Blake and Taylor weren't just best friends, they were almost like family. But in 2021, their relationship took a new turn when it crossed over into the creative world. Blake made her directorial debut with Taylor's music video, I Bet You Think About Me, a fiery, cheeky track from Taylor's re-recorded Red, Taylor's version album. For Blake, who was already respected as an actress and fashion icon, stepping behind the camera was a bold move. And for Taylor, trusting her best friend with one of her highly anticipated projects spoke volumes about their closeness. The video itself was a huge success, filled with sharp storytelling, playful visuals, and even earned Blake a nomination at the Country Music Association Awards. When Taylor accepted her American Music Award later that year, she didn't miss the chance to shine the spotlight back on Blake. In her speech, she paused to thank her beautiful, brilliant friend, my director Blake Lively. It was one of those rare public moments where the world got to see just how deep their respect for one another ran. Taylor didn't just see Blake as a best friend, she saw her as a collaborator, someone she trusted to help bring her artistic vision to life. To fans, this partnership felt like the ultimate sign of an unshakable bond. After all, Taylor is famously careful about who she lets into her creative process. She rarely hands over the reins, and yet with Blake, she did so wholeheartedly. Their friendship wasn't only personal anymore, it was immortalized on screen, forever captured in one of Taylor's musical eras. At this point, everything about their connection seemed untouchable. They were friends, family, and now creative partners. But as the saying goes, nothing in Hollywood stays perfect forever. And just when it seemed like Blake and Taylor's bond couldn't be stronger, controversy struck, and it would test their friendship in ways no one saw coming. Every great friendship has its tests, but for Blake and Taylor, the real cracks began to show when controversy came knocking. In 2024, Blake found herself in the middle of a very public and messy legal battle with her It Ends With Us co-star and director, Justin Baldoni. What began as behind-the-scenes tension spilled into the open, with headlines reporting accusations and counters that kept Blake's name in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. But the shock for fans wasn't just the controversy itself, it was Taylor's reaction. Or rather, her lack of one. For years, Taylor had been known as a fiercely loyal friend, the type who would defend her inner circle both in private and on public stages. Yet this time, she stayed silent. No tweets, no Instagram posts, no subtle support in interviews. Nothing. Things escalated when Taylor herself was unexpectedly dragged into the mess. According to reports, she was even subpoenaed because Blake had mentioned Taylor as one of her so-called dragons in the dispute. For a brief moment, it looked like Taylor might be forced into the middle of the storm. But when the subpoena was later dropped, her decision was clear. She wanted nothing to do with the fight. For fans who had always seen Blake and Taylor as inseparable, this silence felt louder than words. Why wasn't Taylor standing by her best friend of nearly a decade? Had their once tight bond already started to fracture behind the scenes? The speculation only grew when the two women were no longer seen together in public. No photos, no casual outings, no playful social media mentions. For a friendship that had once been front and center, the sudden distance spoke volumes. And just when the questions couldn't get any bigger, rumors began swirling about a brand new Taylor Swift song, one that could hold the answers fans were desperately looking for. If there's one thing Taylor Swift's fans know for sure, it's that her music is never just music. Every lyric, every title, every hidden clue is scrutinized for meaning. So when whispers began spreading that her upcoming album, The Life of a Showgirl, might include a track called Ruin the Friendship, fans immediately went into detective mode. The title alone was enough to set off alarm bells. Who was this song about? And why did it sound less like a love story and more like a fallout? Given the timing of Taylor's silence during Blake's legal battle and the noticeable distance between the two, it didn't take long before theories began pointing in one direction: Blake Lively. This wasn't the first time Taylor's music had blurred the line between personal and public. In fact, she has a long history of transforming private feuds into chart-topping anthems. Fans remembered how she seemingly addressed her feud with Kim Kardashian in Thank You, Amy, from the Tortured Poets department. It was a clever disguise, a coded message buried in melody, but to Swifties, the meaning was crystal clear. So if Taylor had no problem using her lyrics to process a fight with one of the most famous reality stars in the world, why wouldn't she do the same for a broken friendship? To many, Ruin the Friendship sounded like more than a catchy title. It sounded like a confession. The theory gained even more traction when online sleuths noticed parallels in her past work. For example, Taylor has a pattern of dropping subtle Easter eggs months before an album release, whether it's a hint in a speech, a cryptic post online, or a lyric that doesn't make sense until later. Fans began digging through her recent interviews and appearances, trying to connect dots that could tie the song to Blake. Of course, nothing has been confirmed. Taylor has remained silent, leaving the speculation to spiral unchecked. But in her world, silence often says more than words. For some fans, the mystery is thrilling. For others, it's heartbreaking. If true, it would mean that one of Hollywood's most beloved friendships had ended not with a statement, but with a song. And with rumors mounting, the question everyone was asking was simple: where do Blake and Taylor really stand now? So where does this leave Blake Lively and Taylor Swift today? Depending on who you ask, the answers couldn't be more different. Some sources insist the two are no longer on speaking terms, that the silence and distance are proof enough their bond has cracked beyond repair. Others argue it's all speculation, fueled by rumors and a fandom that reads too deeply into every lyric and gesture. What we do know is that the public dynamic has changed. The days of cozy holiday photos, playful social media mentions, and public shoutouts have disappeared. In their place is silence, and in the world of celebrities, silence often speaks volumes. For fans, it's almost surreal. How did a friendship that once felt unshakable, one that even involved children and family bonds, suddenly become a question mark? The truth may never be spelled out directly. If Taylor's upcoming track, Ruin the Friendship, is about Blake, it'll join the long list of coded messages Taylor has left in her music, fragments of personal stories told in melodies instead of interviews. And if it's not, then perhaps this is just another case of fans and the media pushing a narrative that isn't there. But either way, the fascination remains. Because in the end, this isn't just about Taylor Swift and Blake Lively. It's about how fame, pressure, and the glare of the spotlight can twist even the most genuine connections. Friendships that seem untouchable in private can unravel in public, where every silence becomes suspicious and every lyric becomes evidence. And that's what makes the story so compelling: the uncertainty. Maybe Blake and Taylor will prove everyone wrong with a reunion that silences the speculation. Or maybe Ruin the Friendship will be the closing chapter of a bond that fans thought would last forever. Either way, one thing is certain. In the world of Taylor Swift, the story is never over until the next song drops. One thing that's always made Taylor Swift such a fascinating figure is the way she walks the tightrope between public and private life. On the one hand, she's built an empire out of letting fans feel like they know her secrets. Hidden Easter eggs, coded lyrics, and cryptic interviews make it seem like she's pulling back the curtain. But on the other hand, Taylor is also fiercely protective of her personal world. When she wants silence, she makes sure nothing leaks out. Her friendships have always been part of that balancing act. Some of them, like with Selena Gomez or Gigi Hadid, she's proudly displayed in public, letting fans see those connections play out in photos, interviews, and appearances. Others, she's kept quieter, letting them exist away from the constant scrutiny of the internet. That's what made her bond with Blake so interesting. For years, it was a rare mix of both. Private enough to feel authentic, but public enough to give fans something to hold on to. We saw the family ties through her music, the award show shoutouts, even the casual hangouts that made their friendship seem effortless. But when the controversy hit, the silence was deafening. Fans couldn't help but wonder, was Taylor simply pulling things back into her private mode, refusing to let the world in on something personal? Or was the silence itself a sign that things had changed between her and Blake? It's the classic Taylor paradox. She shares just enough to spark a frenzy, but never enough to give the full picture. And in that space between what's said and unsaid, rumors begin to thrive. If there's one thing Taylor Swift's career has proven, it's that her fans are just as much a part of the story as the music itself. Swifties don't just listen, they decode, debate, and defend with a level of intensity few fandoms can match. And when rumors about Ruin the Friendship began circulating, the fanbase immediately split into two fiery camps. On one side were the believers, fans convinced that the song title was no coincidence, that Taylor was once again using her lyrics to turn a personal fallout into an anthem. They pointed to her track record, how she'd hidden entire feuds in plain sight before, and argued that the absence of Blake from Taylor's life lately was all the evidence needed. To them, it wasn't speculation, it was confirmation. But on the other side were the defenders. These fans pushed back, insisting people were reaching too far, twisting every lyric into something it wasn't. They argued that not every song is autobiographical, that Taylor is more than capable of writing fiction or crafting stories that don't tie directly to her personal life. Some even claimed the narrative was unfair to Blake, that dragging her name into speculation only added to the stress of her ongoing controversies. The debates quickly spilled across social media. Twitter threads, TikTok theories, and Instagram edits tried to prove one side or the other. Some memes mocked the idea of the feud, while others treated it as inevitable, like a puzzle waiting to be solved. And as the chatter grew louder, so did the impact. The drama wasn't just about Taylor and Blake anymore. It had become a fandom war, with fans themselves keeping the story alive. In the end, the divide only added fuel to the fire, because when millions of people can't agree on what a single song title means, it only makes the mystery more powerful. And while fans were busy arguing, Taylor herself stayed silent, which for her might have been the most telling move of all. At its core, the story of Blake Lively and Taylor Swift isn't just about two celebrities drifting apart. It's about how fragile even the strongest friendships can become under the weight of fame, public pressure, and constant speculation. What started as a chance meeting in Australia grew into one of Hollywood's most beloved bonds: family ties, creative collaborations, and years of shared history. But now, that same friendship finds itself under a microscope, every silence and lyric turned into evidence of a rift. The truth, we may never get it spelled out in interviews or social media posts. That's the way Taylor operates. Her life speaks through her music, leaving fans to fill in the blanks. Maybe Ruin the Friendship really is a direct message to Blake. Or maybe it's just another example of Taylor letting her art blur the lines between fiction and reality, knowing her fans will run with the mystery. And as for Blake, she remains silent too, which only deepens the intrigue. Because in Hollywood, sometimes silence isn't avoidance. Sometimes it's survival. Whether their bond has truly ended or simply shifted behind the scenes, one thing is certain. Their story reminds us that even the closest friendships aren't immune to change. Fame magnifies everything: the laughter, the love, and yes, even the fractures. And in Taylor's world, the final word on any friendship rarely comes in a statement. It comes in a song. So maybe the real question isn't, did Taylor and Blake's friendship end? But rather, how much of the truth will she let us hear in her lyrics? Until then, all we can do is wait and listen.